All right. So, things that I have in here. Really? So I have a few extra things. I have my. Oh yeah, I forgot I gotta fax that in. I have my Reliance Shield stuff in here, but I don't really sell it very often. I should sell it more. But the main things that I use in my in-home folder, final expense cheat sheet, and there's an updated version on the FFL America page, products page. So print that out, laminate it. I need to print out the updated one. Licensed, laminated, and financial inventory and credibility sheet. Okay. These always go together. So how I do mine is I pull out, so I have my badge. I pull out my folder and my iPad when I sit down. So like these two things are on the table. And I set this off to the side. Okay, Brian, like we mentioned on the phone, you had asked about the state-approved final expense programs. Okay, and I don't like to skip any steps, so I always start with my license, right? I'm not required to show you this, but I do want you to know exactly who you're talking to. So my license number is here. Feel free to take a picture of that if you want to refer back to it. Okay, and I leave that on the table, like the whole time. And then I get into, now just to kind of clarify my role in all of this, like I said on the phone, I'm a state licensed field underwriter. My company here, Family First Life, like I said, we are field underwriters, but we're also brokers. So we work with all of these different carriers, and I'm sure you recognize at least a few of the ones on this page, okay? We work in a few different areas: mortgage protection here, general life insurance, final expense kind of coverage, and some future income planning like retirement protection type stuff. Now you had asked about the life insurance and final expense, so that's what we'll take care of today. But if we come across anything else that needs some attention, we can kind of address that at the end, okay? But we'll make sure to take care of your primary concerns today. Now, there's three things, and then I leave this over here on the table too, right? Boom, boom. I'll actually throw that on the table too, so that they can now I am very official. My credibility is built with that. So there's three things that we're going to talk about today, right? Whatever we talk about, we're going to make sure it's affordable. Okay, number one, because no confusion here, affordability is the primary concern. Because just like today, when there's 33 million Americans out of work, unemployment's up to 15%, maybe more now. We have to think about the future, and we have to be able to afford whatever we put in place today when times are bad in the future, okay? Secondly, it's got to make sense for your situation, because everybody needs a few different things, right? You're not like your neighbors or your friends, okay? So it's a very individual approach. That's why we work with so many carriers like we just talked about. And then thirdly, of course, which is the main part of my job, I have to make sure that you can medically qualify for whatever we talk about. Because if you can't qualify for it, you can't have it, and there's no use even talking about it. Fair enough? Fair enough. And you'll see all three of those right here. Affordable, comfortable, see qualify. Okay? Boom, boom, boom. Now, and then when it's final expense.
What was your reason for being covered?
Yeah, when it's final expense, I flip this page over, because I'm going to leave them with this page every time, so I write the stuff on the back. So now when people fill this out, and tons of people fill these requests out every week and ask for our help, there's three areas that are usually on their mind, and three things that they're trying to accomplish. Okay, one is just covering their final expenses. Okay, now that's stuff that's anything that goes into like a funeral or cremation, whatever your preference is. That could be like the casket, the plot, the service, the celebration of life, catering the food after, an ambulance ride if somebody finds your body and they try to save you, right? Things like that. Now, the second one is income replacement. That's usually if both spouses are still alive. Most households take both incomes to live the certain lifestyle that you live at the moment, right? And if one of those spouses isn't here anymore, then neither is that income. So they will allow a lot of people like to leave at least maybe 6 months to 2 years worth of an income replacement so that the spouse has some time to adjust their lifestyle now that that second income is gonna be disappeared, okay? Thirdly is gonna be leveraging their legacy, okay? Now, in other words, that just means taking the money that you have now and increasing the amount that you have by buying more money in the form of life insurance to leave behind to some family, right? Maybe some adult children, maybe some grandkids, try to increase their financial position just to help them out. Because, you know, if people have leftover money that they're not gonna use before they die, they like to, you know, do something good with that and increase the amount that they can leave for their family. So now some people only want to accomplish one of these goals, some people like to accomplish all three, but you tell me which one of these is important to you so that I have a better idea of which direction we need to go today.
The final expense, burial.
Okay, so just final expense. We're not looking to leave an income replacement because I see you don't. I see your wife has already passed, and I'm sorry about that. And you're not really trying to leverage your legacy and leave leave $1 million behind to your kids or nothing, right? Just enough to make sure that when you pass away, they don't have to pay for anything that has to do with your funeral. Is that right? And funeral is the preference,
right? Yeah.
Versus
I'll
cremation?
probably be buried. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then
So these are like the shorter or the smaller whole life amounts, and these are the bigger ones if they want to leave a legacy.
Well, yeah, like leaving a legacy would be more like an accidental death policy, where you can leave like $500,000 for like $50 a month, right? But that has to be under age 70. But you'll figure that out. But really, these 3, 1, 2, 3 final expense, income replacement, and leveraging your legacy, that just tells you what to tell them that the money is going to do at the end, right? So, and I'll check an X and X, right? So it's like, okay, very clear that I'm on the same page as you, and you just verbalized what you need, right? Part of sales is like making the person articulate what they need, right? So, final expense, I'll check that, X. Okay, so now, this is important. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but all we're trying to do is make sure that we're covering the final expenses and all the costs that are gonna come along with your burials and funeral and everything like that, so the kids aren't burdened with that. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That gives me a little bit of direction. That helps me. Okay, now the way that we're gonna get all the information that we need, they give us this page here to walk through together, and we're gonna spend 2 minutes looking at the financial questions, right? Just really figuring out what the budget is. And then 2 minutes here in the middle section, looking at any medical impairments that you have, maybe any prescriptions that you're currently taking or have taken in the recent past. And then that'll give me a little bit of information to do my research on which company on this page has the best chance to accept you. Because just like you have a chance to pick and choose which company you ask to be a part of, the company that we ask to be a part of has a chance to do their research on you, the individual, and pick and choose which clients they accept to be a part of them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can get you approved with America, which is my best company today that we work with, for a few different reasons, right? Best prices, best products, best customer service. When something finally happens to you, because unfortunately something's going to happen to you, right? We're in the 4th quarter of our life, we just don't know when it's going to happen. They're actually going to be able to pay out within 24 to 48 hours. So I'll be back here with a check to hand to your beneficiary to make sure everything's taken care of, okay? But we do have to submit a request at the end of our conversation today. Once we fill out this form, I get the best view of your situation, and then we have to ask the company to see what they say.
Gotcha.
Fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if that all makes sense, let's go ahead and get started with the questions, okay? All right. Ryan, Ramsey, age, okay, monthly income, social security, not making very much, right? Well, the house is totally paid off, right? Yeah, okay, perfect. What's like the monthly payment for utilities? Got it, okay. Do you have anything to offset the cost of the mortgage, 401k, IRA, stock market? It's like probably not very much, because middle class America hasn't saved, or at least had to use their savings or something.
Right.
So let's just assume they don't have life insurance and all that, okay? Cool. So now, and like all this is pretty self-explanatory, right? It doesn't really take training, you just read the questions. But I think the quoting is important. And let me get my Sharpie real quick. The quoting is important because this is just another way that you get to direct their focus, right? You get to control what they look at. Now, with final expense, they're never gonna have like a ton of money, right?
Usually people at the end of their lives and
Right.
older.
Yeah, come on in here if you want. Just going over some like my final expense at home, and the quoting and the close is like huge, I think, because it's
Like I'm not here, be fine.
sure. Okay, so what I do is like if it's Americo Eagle, right? I'll just or Americo Eagle, and before I get into the numbers, I tell them, okay, so we're gonna look at what this, I hand them the pamphlet, of course. Here's the product that we're gonna try to get approved with. But before we get into like how much this is gonna cost, let's talk about what this product actually does and what you're gonna get. Otherwise, the numbers are just arbitrary and there's too many numbers on the page to even make sense of. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay, so this one, right, like double accidental, write that down. Terminal illness, explain terminal illness, right, less than 12 months, okay, so, and then I flip that over. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Yes, get the verbal affirmation. Okay, so now that makes sense, I'm just gonna like take a few minutes and draw up like just a few options, and we're gonna go over them and see what you tell me which one's gonna make the most sense for your situation. Okay, I just need like a second or two. Do you mind if I grab a glass of water? Thank you. I've been talking all day. Get them to do something nice for you, right? That kind of breaks down their walls. Okay, I'll do like 25K. You know, draw the whole thing out, of course. Maybe 15. Like 10. Okay. And then 50 for an accidental. 30 for an accidental. 20 for an accidental. Okay. And this is the important part. Yes, I write the numbers down, 25, 15, 10, but I also write down in bigger font than the numbers what it's actually gonna do. So full burial plus money for like Susie, right? Whatever their kid's name is. Or like full burial and like that's it, right? No extra money for Susie. And then like maybe 75% of the burial. And then the price, whatever the price is, 125 a month. I don't know, 100 a month.
You have to go through and quote it to get those?
Yeah, you have to do that here. Whatever your iPad is, but that's a pretty easy process. And while you're doing the quoting and the research, like all the underwriting before you do the quotes, that's where you build the rapport. I don't build the rapport in the beginning. Like I come in, put my license on the table, describe what we're gonna do, and then just like get into it. Cause I mean, the doctor doesn't come in and like chit chat with you for 10 minutes before you get down to business. He's like, you're basically-
Does it take a minute to run those quotes when they're sitting there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or they might like get up and go do something. Like I tell them, hey,
give me a minute, I'm gonna
I
run
say,
it.
hey, it's gonna take me just like a few short minutes. So if you have to like use the bathroom, grab a glass of water, you know, check your email or something real quick, I'll let you know when I have all this written out, and then we can sit down and discuss which one makes the most sense for your situation. Okay. Okay. So I write that down. And this is where it gets important. Boom. Highlighter, Sharpie. Okay. And I tell them, okay, there's a lot of numbers on here, so I'm just gonna get my highlighter out so we can kind of compartmentalize what's going on here. Okay. Make a little bit more sense of it. Okay, Ryan. So I wrote 3 different options down. I think they're all going to make a lot of sense to you, but you tell me which one makes the most sense. Now I put down to start just like $25,000, and that's going to be enough to cover. And notice it's a small mark with the highlighter, small line, because that's not really the focus. The focus is the big line. So what that $25,000 is going to do is cover the full burial and leave money left over for Susie, because she's going to have to, you know, travel in from Florida. She's gonna have to take time off of work. She's gonna have to, you know, pay for a babysitter to watch the kids and like take time to make sure that all your affairs are in order, because she is the person that's gonna make sure all your affairs are in order. Correct? Correct. Okay. Now that's gonna be $125 a month. Second option. Now that's a little bit expensive, you know, I think, but you know your budget better than I do, okay? Now the second option that I wrote down is for $15,000, and that's just gonna cover like the full burial, because nowadays burials in Texas cost anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000, right? So on the higher side, 15, just to be safe, right? That's gonna cost us $100. And then I wrote down $10,000. I wouldn't recommend anything less than that if you really want a burial, because on the low side, burials are probably gonna cost somewhere between $10,000, $8,000, like very minimal burial, just enough to respectfully put you in the ground. And that's gonna cover about 75% of the burial. But let's be honest, if we can't cover the whole thing, we don't want Susie to have to pay for the whole thing, right? Right. Okay. And that's gonna be about $80 a month. So now, if you look at that, that's obviously still like a lot of highlighted stuff, right? Little focus on the actual death benefit number. Big focus on the what that money's gonna do. Okay, so this is how you control their focus. And then you get this, you say, okay, now I know like that's a lot of highlighted stuff, so let's just kind of look at it a little bit easier. Now, out of these three options, which one makes the most sense for your situation in terms of what you're trying to leave behind for Susie, but is comfortable financially?
I want to do the full burial with leave some money over for Susie.
Okay, perfect. That's the one that I would choose too. Now all I need is your ID and a void check to verify that there's an active bank account and that nobody's trying to get any insurance fraud in your name.
Okay. And then they go and get that check, and then
you go ahead and grab that. I'll go ahead and get the request started.
Okay.
And then you like just look away.
And that's when you actually enter the application, all of his information. You're just quoting it to begin with.
So, good question. I used to start the application right then, okay? But now, after we do the medication and I do my underwriting, that's when I start the application for the America products, because they have the prescription check on like page 4, right? And I have them like sign, hey, this is just the asking them to do the MIB report. They're gonna take a few minutes to do their background check on you. Look at whatever prescriptions you've had, any medical impairments that you have now or have had in the past, any surgeries, things like that. Okay, and they'll give me an initial thumbs up or an initial thumbs down, and in the meantime, we'll just kind of continue asking questions, and it'll give me a little bit better perspective of if they're going to accept you or not. Now, during the whole and that's when I go through the entire application, right? And because during me asking those questions, I'm gonna get a little message back from America that says either like yes or no, right? The initial thumbs up or the initial thumbs down. If they give me the initial thumbs up, I just like see it and I don't even mention it, and I just keep going with the application until I get to the payment information page on the application. When I get there, and that's right after the beneficiary page, when I get there, I know that they're gonna get approved because I've seen the thumbs up. If I get a thumbs down, then I just like stop what I'm doing on the application and I sidestep over to American Amicable or Prosperity is going to be a good
So
one.
it looks like something came up. I'm gonna have to go another direction for you.
Right. You just say like, hey, they actually just got back to me. It looks like they're not going to approve you for this specific product with this company, but no worries. That's why I'm a broker, and that's why we work with so many carriers, like we talked about at the very beginning. Okay, so now we're going to go over here to American Amicable. The good news is that they have multiple risk classes, and that we can definitely get you approved. We just have to figure out which class works best for you, okay, or which class to put you in, or which class they're going to qualify you at, however you want to say that. But when I get to after the beneficiaries and I get to the payment page, that's when I go through the quotes, so that when they tell me, at this point I already know that they're going to get approved because America has told me the little message. And then we go through this, and you say, I want the full burial. And I say, perfect. All I need is your ID and a void check so that they can verify that there's an active bank account and that nobody's trying to get any insurance fraud in your name. And you go ahead and grab that. They'll grab it, and then
Would you enter that check number in the
and then
application?
right when they get back, blah 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 blah.
You enter like their routing number or something?
Accounting number, routing number.
Okay.
Because right when they say I'm okay with this, I don't want to waste any time putting it in. and like give them time to like.
So you go through this first about medications and stuff, and then you go into the app and you start filling it out, and then you start quoting.
Once I get their medications and surgeries, and I have a good idea that they're pretty healthy, right?
And you're like, okay, this guy's gonna be America more than likely.
Right.
And so you would, okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Right.
And then as far as like these three, like final expense, income, and legacy, I mean, they obviously all go to different products. Like if they were to choose income replacement
or
or
just
something.
different amounts, right? Like they could want final expense, income replacement, and leverage the legacy, and then you just like.
So yeah,
and then
basically
you
your
just give
final
them-
expense,
and then you
minimum
just-
barrel 15, and then
Yeah.
if you want to leave a legacy, you want to leave another 50,000 or something, so you get a $75,000 policy.
Like here, this section tells you what to write next to the prices.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's what's important to them, and that's what they want to see this money do.
Yeah, so if they were like, I want final expense and legacy protection, be like, okay, well, if you have $75,000, you'll be full burial, plus you'll have another 50,000 for your beneficiary.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then if you had to stack a whole life and a Mutual of Omaha accidental to like leave the amount of legacy that they want to leave behind, then you would just like draw,
So
you would just write that out here, like $25,000 to cover the final expenses, and then plus $100,000 for legacy.
So you ask them how much they want to leave behind?
Well, no, you just present a good structure. Present a few structures that like top-down selling.
So when during this process would be the best time to like reach out to your upline?
Right after this. Right after you fill this out.
Okay, so I have had hey, I got Joe sitting here and he's healthy, he only has this, and I don't even need to tell you his income or anything, or do I?
I mean, it would help.
And like he's just looking for final
you don't have to.
expense.
As long as I know like what medications he's taking and what medical impairments he has, I can give you some direction.
And then I would already ask him what he's looking for before this, right?
Right.
Are there 3 options, or no?
Well, this is
beginning.
like what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
This is where you.
So kind of go through this and then ask him this and call you, or do it before?
So, this little section here in the corner, the final expense,
Yeah.
income replacement, and leverage your legacy, like that's at the very beginning. Like right after you say, we're gonna find something that's affordable, comfortable, and we're gonna see if you qualify.
Okay.
Now, before we get into that, remind me, which of these 3 are important to you? Most people want to either accomplish final expense coverage, income replacement, or leveraging your legacy. It could be one, it could be all 3. You tell me which is important to you so I know which direction to take this.
Okay.
That makes sense. So right after you fill out the financial inventory right here, you give me a call.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you like, yeah, America.
When I enter the routing number and account number in the void check, do you keep it check?
Yeah, keep the check. It's a void check, so it's not like you can do anything.
Yeah. Okay. And then their ID, you just write their ID number down the application probably?
Yeah, it'll ask for all that.
Okay.
The electronic applications are pretty idiot proof.
Okay.
Hard to
And then
mess
I
up.
know this is final expense, but what about like general life insurance? Is it kind of same deal?
Well, if it's general life insurance, that's when you ask that you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper in the beginning of what's actually important to them.
Okay. It's like, what's your reason for this coverage?
So yeah, you get in there, hey, Colton, state license field underwriter, here's my license, don't like to skip any steps. So you and I'm here because you had asked about the state approved life insurance programs. So tell me, what exactly is it that we were looking to take care of today? And then after that, they'll tell you.
He's like, I'm not really sure. I just kind of filled it out, and they're like, well, these options come with like final expense or income replacement or legacy.
Well,
or is it different?
and then you just have to use your critical thinking skills. Like, how old are they? Like, what life
If they're like
what
80.
life problems do they probably have? Are they 60 plus and have the house paid off? Then what was on their mind was probably final expense coverage.
Okay.
Right? They're just not going to come out and tell you, hey, I need a small whole life. I need a small whole life plan that's going to pay for my final expenses and burial costs. Or they're not going to tell you, hey, I'm 45 and I work and have a $200,000 mortgage. I need term insurance with critical, chronic, and terminal illness riders. So like, critical thinking skills.
Okay.
If they're younger, like 55 and below, and they fill out a general life insurance form, they're probably looking for term insurance like Americo HMS, right? Hundreds of thousands of
Mortgage
dollars.
protection stuff.
Right, mortgage protection. Anything above like 55 or 60, then like they're probably.
If it was like a 55-year-old and he had his house paid off, would he still be looking for term, or he'd probably be a whole life in
Well,
that scenario?
I mean, you could kind of go either way. Just as long as you can make logical sense to that person, then there's kind of no reason that they shouldn't get it.
Okay.
Right.
And then as far as like the riders, I know HMS, like it has built-in riders, right? Like that double accident and stuff.
HMS has, yeah, those provisions already.
Are
built
some
in.
of them you have to add riders on different?
You don't
carriers?
have to, but you can. That's why they're riders. They're optional. They're just going to cost a little bit extra. Yeah.
So it's basically just like, do you want to add an accidental rider to your plan just in case you were to pass away, and it could give you an extra $500,000 for $50 a month?
Yeah.
Will it tell you how much or no?
Yeah, when you go through the quoting tool.
It'll say like add terminal illness, $75 extra, something like that.
No, but you can click the rider. You can click terminal illness as a rider, and then hit quote, and it'll pop up
Okay.
a different quote than it would if you didn't select the terminal illness.
Okay.
But honestly, like picking her brain about final expense would be really good because she's doing a lot more than I am right now.
Okay.
But I mean, this is what's been working for me.
Right.
In general, just applied to final expense coverage.
Okay. Sounds good. Can I keep this?
Yeah.
Act like you're genuinely interested, though, like to help them.
them.
Yeah, like go into the appointment thinking like, I want to help them genuinely be in a better position.
Okay.
And like treat them how you want to be treated.
Okay.
Because people.
Act like
Don't act like that. Be like that.
right.
Be
Yeah.
that person. That's
Yeah,
a good person to be.
Pretend that they're your
Be
grandparents.
that person.
If your grandparents were asking you about this,
I'm not saying
Yeah,
that.
just trying to set them up.
you would number one,
financially.
you would number one be like educated. You would make sure that you knew what you were actually telling your grandparents, because and if you didn't know, you would find out.
Mhm.
Right. Just act like they're your grandparents because they're somebody's grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Just go in trying to educate them because a lot of people don't know anything about this and
Yeah.
they're scared someone's gonna take advantage of them.
Right.
Another one that you'll get is an objection that you'll get, and she can tell you, I need to talk to my kids about this.
Mm.
And
And then that's when you lay the whole, if you were to die tomorrow, your kids wouldn't be covered or something. Just kind of make up a story.
well, what I would say, what I've said before is, look, if my mom asked me about it, I would tell her not to do it, and I would just take care of her and tell her to save her money. But I don't have $20,000 laying around waiting to spend on her funeral, so I would still be in a hole. I just love my mom, and like I'm sure your kids would tell you the same thing, and I'm sure you don't want to put your kids in a $20,000 hole, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I've said before.
Or you can but when you're qualifying the appointment on the phone, I've asked before, do you handle your, are you married, are you single, are you divorced, or widowed,
Mm-hmm.
do you handle your own decisions, do you handle your finances?
Right.
If they say no, do you request that somebody
Yeah.
be with them?
Well, if they say no, like my daughter or something, I'm like, oh, okay, great. So is your daughter available for the appointment?
Okay, so these, like
So we can go
HMS,
over, like,
125, 150, they cash
Yes.
back after their term's over.
It might be
Do they have to,
good
like, apply to
ask
get
the
cash
daughter
back, or is it
actually
just
be the
automatically?
It's
beneficiary.
automatically back into their
Clarify
account.
that
The
too,
account that
make
they've
sure
been
they
taking
don't
money
shut
from
down.
for every
They're trying to
premium,
make sure
the bank account that
Well, I'm
that you
sure
put your
she's
routing and
handling
account number
her
into.
decisions
I have to
as
reimburse
she
it
should.
to that,
She
okay.
probably is.
It just
That's really
something
lonely.
else to
I mean, there's only products
kinda
I've
make you
seen,
look like a
America,
professional
Mutual
and you're trying
Omaha,
to cover all the bases.
From the product video, right?
This
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
right person.
Right.
AIG, John Hancock, I don't
Yeah.
have them
I'm just
yet.
thinking outside the
What-
box.
That's okay. If you're
Whatever-
doing mostly
whatever
final
works
expense, you
for
have to
you
write
on
John
the
Hancock.
phone,
We do term
like,
with them.
do it. If that's your style, do that. Because how I'm
Like
gonna book
mortgage
appointments
protection,
and how you're gonna
yeah.
book appointments.
Yeah,
is
that's a mortgage
completely
protection
different.
thing.
Right.
Mortgage protection is
Because
term
we're not the
insurance.
same person.
Right.
Alright, well, yeah, I think I'm all good. I got 2 appointments set. Had like 80 calls.
Nice.
So I'm gonna call some more. I gotta go to Weatherford, the office. I'm gonna call some more until 4 or 5.
Cool.
Then I'll holler at you and get a game plan going.
Yeah, I got you. And then, run through all those